Hi everybody, Fred the Pirate here, and I am here to do a review for Legend of Korra Season 3, Episodes 1 through 3. So overall, I really thought that these were pretty good episodes. So basically what happens is we start off in Republic City again, and we're dealing with pretty much right after the harmonic convergence. So we're just dealing straight with the aftermath of it. Because when we start episode 1, it's been 2 weeks since the harmonic convergence, so there's a bunch of spirit vines everywhere in Republic City, and there's a lot of spirits, so Korra's trying to deal with that, not so successfully though. And on top of that, besides the spirit vines, obviously a bunch of new airbenders emerge. And we see this first with Boomy, learning that he has the ability to airbend after he has, an hilarious misadventure with one of the spirit animals that he's bonded to. And so because of the aftermath of the harmonic convergence, a lot of shit's going down in Republic City, and so we have, a rather hilarious thing where Korra's being, haggled by the press about, her approval ratings, and, people in Republic City are, just kind of pissed off that things are changing and they're not sure how to deal with that, and that's negatively affecting people's perception in Republic City of Korra and obviously the president. And so eventually towards the end of episode 1, she gets kicked out of Republic City by the president of Republic City because there's just too much shenanigans going on, which is very convenient for Korra because that kind of segues into what we're going to be doing for this season, which is that she's pretty much going to go on a road trip with her group of friends to find, new airbenders so they can bring them to the Northern Air Temple so she can train them. And so while this is happening in the first couple of episodes, we get introduced to essentially 4 characters that are going to be the antagonist of the series. We get introduced to Zahir, which is he's a criminal airbender, and he's the leader of a gang of criminal benders who are interested in, I guess, getting rid of the Avatar. So that's what we're told, and so we follow him as he kind of, busts out his gang. And then we also get introduced to the Earth Queen when they go to Ba Sing Se to find airbenders. And so obviously it's pretty obvious when we meet her and we get to see what's happening that she's obviously a dictator, that she's not a good leader, and that, we can see that with how she treats her subjects that are immediately close to her. We can see this with how she uses the Dai Li, and we can just see this with the treatment of her citizens, particularly Bolin and Mago's grandmother. So that's kind of what goes down in the first couple episodes, so we kind of get introduced to what we're going to be doing for this season. So, overall, although also we get reintroduced to Zuko, so we get to see him, which is really cool. So overall, so far, these episodes seem kind of good. I mean, I'm kind of hopeful with the series based on what we've seen so far because there was a lot of interesting things to happen. I'm definitely interested to seeing what they're going to do with the villains, and how and I'm just kind of just interested in seeing what they're going to do with the new airbenders in general. That just seems like that'd be really interesting to see. But I'm kind of interested in what they're going to do with their villains because I'm not sure who's the big bad this season because we get introduced to pretty much, 2 major antagonistic forces. So I don't know if Zahir is going to be the major bad guy of the series or if it's going to be the Earth Queen. because I figure one of them's probably going to be the major antagonistic force, and then another's kind of going to be like a lesser antagonistic force. So, like, I don't know who is going to be like the major and lesser force in this. Like, honestly, I think Zahir and his gang are certainly going to be interesting, and I think they're probably going to give us a lot of action sequences, but I don't know how large of a threat they are. And so, because, like, especially like with the Earth Queen, it's like she's a dictator that's in charge of a country. And so, she literally has a whole army behind her back. So it's like, Zahir is certainly a threat, but I don't know, like, how big of a threat he is. Like, I think he definitely would be a threat personally to Korra, but like, assuming that the Earth Queen's probably going to be a lot more of a threat because, again, she's a dictator. So, but it'll be interesting to see. I think both of them will be very interesting antagonistic forces to deal with. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that was. Um, I also, obviously, it was really great to see Zuko again and see what he's up to, and see that he's okay and alive, and that seeing him on an adventure. And so hopefully he'll, obviously in episode 2 and 3, he meets up with Eska and Desna, and with Korra's dad. So, and they're trying to stop Zahir from busting out one of his gang members. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what he does, and hopefully they'll hook up with Korra's group, and Korra can see Zuko. So that'd be interesting. I think a couple of the things that I was interested, like I liked the new characters we met, like with Kai. He seemed like an interesting character. I kind of have mixed feelings about him so far because, like, like he's kind of one of those things, like where obviously he's like a criminal, like he's a thief, and and he's kind of got this cocky arrogance to him. So it's kind of interesting to see that. I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with him. Like, I imagine Kai's probably going to be one of those characters, like either you like him or you don't. So it'll be, right now I'm kind of on the fence with him because his character seems very interesting, but like in the episode, his personality, at least to me, came off as kind of a little grating because he was just, a little too cocky. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Obviously, he's going to help us out with dealing with the Earth Queen because we're going to see what's going on with the Earth Kingdom with him. So I think that was like a smart move. I think overall, like, I'm hoping, like, as far as like the series itself goes, Korra's kind of been like a little mixed. I mean, I think compared to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the thing with with Korra as a series, it's like it's had really good animation and it's had really good fight choreography, but its writing's been kind of ho-hum. And I'm kind of hoping that with this season, the creators, kind of return to form, and it's not so mamby-pamby the way it was with season 1 and season 2, because I think season 1 was obviously a lot better, but they had some mix-ups there toward the end. So I'm kind of hoping with this season, that they get back to what they need to do. At least as far as the trailer for this season went, like, the trailer looked really epic, and like, and the story looks interesting, and like with episode 3, particularly towards the end, where the Dai Li were cornering Kai, like that was really cool to me because like that was very threatening, and and that really reminded me of some of the stuff that happened in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I'm kind of hoping that with this season, the creators get back to the basics with what made Avatar: The Last Airbender really good. Because I feel like one of the major issues with The Legend of Korra's writing is that they just spent way too much time bullshitting around with relationship and shipping nonsense rather than focusing on the story, which is unfortunate because they had some really good ideals for both of the seasons, but it just seemed like it got bogged down with bullshit. I'm hoping, although I'm kind of glad that so far it seems like they're getting away from relationships. You know, none of the main cast is hooking up. Like, obviously, things are weird between Mako and Korra and Asami on Mako's end. Like, Korra and Asami are, like, cool. Like, they understand what happened and they moved on, but Mako's being weird. So, you know, and I'm glad that, you know, Korra and Asami have a good relationship and that, you know, they're really, you know, forging a bond as friends. Like, I like that because I think, you know, we're really forming a bond between, you know, Korra and her peers. And I think so far that's really been missing in this series also because in the first series, you know, there was a really tight bond between the Aang gang. And I think with Korra, you know, she hasn't had quite such a tight bond with her group of peers in the series so far because it kept getting pushed back because of, you know, teenage drama and relationship stuff. So hopefully, you know, they work on that. I'm also hoping that they work on Bolin's character because so far, you know, he's just been comic relief. And to be honest, you know, he's not a very effective comic relief. Like, you know, I'll admit, like, Bolin's certainly cute and he's goofy, you know, and you can, you know, and it's kind of funny, but I think at this point in the series, you know, he's just, like, there's so much better comic relief characters in the series so far that right now Bolin's purpose as a comic relief character isn't really necessary, and I'm kind of hoping that they start, you know, shifting him away from being a comic relief character and give him more utility, because if not, you know, he's going to end up becoming dead weight. And I think, you know, I hope that they really start doing stuff with him because, you know, it's going to be frustrating, you know, at the very least to have one of the major characters not have any function as a character, you know, because with Bolin, you know, we have Boomy and, you know, and we had Varric last season who were very good comic relief characters. And, you know, Bolin's just not as, again, just as not as good of a comic relief character as them. So I'm kind of hoping they move him into another role, particularly the way they did with Sokka. Like, you know, because obviously Sokka started out as a comic relief character, but then, you know, they moved him away from that and they gave his character much more depth and much more things to do. And so I'm really hoping that they do that with Bolin this season and that he's just not being goofy and adorable because, you know, as fun as that is, like, you know, there's not a lot of depth to that. And I think, you know, he needs to do more, and I think people want to see him do more, and hopefully the show lets that happen. So I think with that said, I think the first 3 episodes were really good, and I'm glad Nick showed them together because I imagine that if they would have showed the first 3 episodes, you know, 1 week at a time, that probably wouldn't have worked well because, especially because episodes 2 and 3, well, episodes 1 and 2, were very exposition heavy. Like, it's just, they're kind of letting you know what's going on. And I think with episode 3, towards the end of it, that's when stuff starts to happen. So it's like, I'm glad that they packaged them together. I think that was a smart move because it lets us, you know, get started and figure out, you know, what's happening. So I think with that said, I'm definitely interested in seeing what they're going to do. Like I said, I'm particularly interested in figuring out what's going to go on with the antagonist, like figuring out, you know, who's the more major antagonistic force. I'm also, obviously, with that said, I'm interested in figuring out what their motives are. Like, particularly with Zahir's. Like, I'm not sure exactly what is his deeper motives because, Zuko says that I think either Zuko or Zahir himself says he wants to get rid of the Avatar, which begs the question, why? Why do you want to do that? Like, is it for the same reasons that Amon did? Because it kind of seems like it's going to that. Like, I hope he has his own motives and that they're not just rehashing what Amon did, because, that would be boring. And like, hopefully, it's probably not very wise in the TV show to beat a dead horse. So it's like, hopefully he has his own unique motives for why he wants to get rid of the Avatar. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. As far as the scheduling for Legend of Korra goes, we're not going to have an episode next week because it's July 4th, which is an American holiday. But we will have an episode, I believe, at 8 o'clock the Friday afterwards. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's happening with the series. I'm hoping that, again, that it gets back to form and that, the Legend of Korra finds its footing and that it's on par with Avatar: The Last Airbender. So at least that's what I'm hoping to get out of the season. So with that said, make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.